Hello and welcome to TechDredge. Today I'm reviewing the iPhone 7. It seems to be a pretty great phone on paper, but it's missing one important feature that all previous iPhones have had. It's missing a physical home button. Make sure to subscribe to TechDredge to see more cool tech reviews, but now I'm going to get right into the iPhone 7, which looks absolutely stunning. I was not a huge fan of the iPhone 6 design, and the iPhone 7 isn't really any different, but it somehow manages to look a lot sleeker. The 7 Plus looks a lot better than the 6S Plus due to its camera design being a bit more seamlessly integrated into the body, though even on the smaller 7, the lens is slightly larger and there is a chamfered edge making the camera bump a lot less prominent than on previous models. The iPhone 7 comes in pink, gold, silver, black and jet black, which is a fancy term for glossy black, and glossy black is a dangerous area to go. It looks sexy as hell on camera, but will be a fingerprint magnet and a dirt magnet. This is true for matte black and white as well, but to a lesser extent. If you've ever owned a white or black car, you'll know what I'm talking about. It shows every little piece of dirt and every scratch, which means manufacturing the whole phone out of pure black or white material is actually quite risky, because it will show every single manufacturing imperfection, which means manufacturing yields will drop, which means it will be more expensive to produce. This is why Apple loves their space grey and rose gold colours. They hide manufacturing defects very well. So it shows they have some confidence in their manufacturing processes to finally release a couple of pure black phones. Good looks aren't everything though. In fact, they don't count for very much at all. I'll start with turning the phone on and logging in. Touch ID remains by far the best fingerprint sensor technology in a phone. It's so fast and so seamless, even with my heavily scarred thumb, and even when my fingers are moist, it almost never fails, though the fingerprint module on the iPhone 7 is not any different to the one on the 6S. The big difference though is that the Touch ID sensor is no longer accompanied by a physical home button. It's now digital and provides haptic feedback. That is, there's no real button. When you press down on where the button used to be, the phone will provide a vibration in response. This was an area of concern to me. I have almost solely purchased phones that have a physical home button, and it's usually the main reason I go for an iPhone over something else. I've never used or owned a phone with on-screen or capacitive touch buttons that are actually any good. I always get an increased rate of pocket dials. But Apple has a great reputation for haptic feedback. And I'm glad to say the reputation stands. This button is excellent. If you didn't tell me it wasn't a real button, I would swear it was. It feels like I'm physically pushing down on a real button. Fantastic. It doesn't work well when the phone is resting on a flat surface, which meant the store demo didn't really work for me, and I thought it would be terrible until I actually used it on my own phone. It is amazing though. I'm not going to miss the physical button at all, and removing the real button removes a point of failure. And this of course means there's one less ingress point for water, which means the phone is now water resistant. It's rated for IP67, that's water and dust resistant. I haven't tested this substantially. The last time I tested a waterproof product, it involved 3 cameras, a car and a beach, but I thought I'd do a live test now. This is a drinks cooler. It's filled with water. And this is my personal iPhone 7. And this is what happens when you mix the two. I'm so glad that worked. There you go, you can get it wet. Just don't charge it immediately after. Another physical change is in the speakers. There are now 2 of them to provide stereo listening. Good to see, especially if you're the kind of person who likes to watch videos with a group of people on a phone for some reason. I never watch content on a phone because I have a real computer and a tablet, both of which have actual screens for consuming content, but hey, whatever floats your boat. The speakers are very loud, but do have some distortion at max volume. The screen is basically the same as the old one, which is a compliment. Apple's ability to resist changing to a higher resolution, more power-hungry screen is something I find admirable, though they did bump up the brightness a fair bit. It looks great though, as did the last generation phones. Software is the key to any phone, and iOS has always been my preferred operating system. I enjoy simplicity and not having to modify anything, but I actually think it's getting worse. iOS 10 adds a lot of new features, but most have made no difference to me in a day-to-day use. 3D touch is still a pointless gimmick for me. The phone screen doesn't provide the haptic feedback that the home button does, and it's still missing any significant functionality. Notifications now are not just simple vibrations, but are more like being tapped, which is actually pretty cool. Now even when the phone is on silent, I can easily tell whether a notification is an email, text, or something else, which I really like. You can configure your own pattern of taps too, which I found really useful. In addition to that, haptic feedback is integrated into most other functions of the OS. If you switch between apps or scroll through a list of options, you feel little bumps, which is lovely. It's a really nice user experience. Notifications are now enclosed in rounded rectangles, which is just a cosmetic change and is a pointless waste of space. You now fit less notifications on screen, and iOS's control center is now divided into two sections. One for general controls such as airplane mode, flashlight and screen brightness, and another for music controls. And look what they've done to iMessage! There are these big stickers that can go anywhere on the conversation, and horrible confetti effects. iMessage is still the best text messaging app, but this is tacky as and makes me nauseous that my phone is using some amount of processing power and battery life to display this. Plus they've shrunk the actual text message box to make room for these features. Clean and elegant, Apple. That's what you're famous for. Don't clutter your software. The tap back feature is quite nice though. That just lets you like or dislike a message to save you having to type a full response. Night shift is another great little feature. It warms the color profile of the screen at night to reduce eye strain and ease sleep. And it is actually somewhat effective for me. Nothing that innovative, but a nice idea that works well. Else iOS 10 has little practical change for most and actually a few bugs. My alarm doesn't go off when there is a Bluetooth speaker connected, and when browsing through PDFs, the phone will randomly call numbers from the PDF file that obviously aren't phone numbers, like prices on a menu. Battery life is better than on older models and will usually see you through a day, though if you're a power user, it would be best to turn the screen brightness down to 75%. The biggest selling point of the iPhone is typically its camera, and the iPhone 7 makes a few advancements in this regard, though most of the changes are exclusive to the iPhone 7 Plus, which is total BS. On the smaller iPhone 7, the improvements are noticeable. Optical image stabilization is now built in, and the lens has a wider aperture, which means low light photography is enhanced immensely. I have played with the 7 Plus and did some tests and was pretty staggered at the results. The main feature of the iPhone 7 Plus is that it has two cameras, both at different focal lengths. One is a wide-angle lens typical of smartphones, whereas the other is a lot narrower for zoomed-in shots. While other phones have had dual sensors for creating depth maps, using it to produce a 2x optical zoom is very, very cool. Here is a sample picture I took, first at standard zoom, then at 2x zoom. No quality loss here, as it is true optical zoom. Pretty amazing. And you can even push to 10x digital zoom, which is freaking awesome. You lose quite a lot of quality here, but for day-to-day snaps, it's more than good enough. And since iOS 10 allows third-party apps to access raw sensor data, someone can conceivably write an app that will process the pictures at this zoom level a little bit better, though I doubt it, because the reason the iPhone's camera is better than anyone else's is because Apple does a sensational job at image processing. And it's got 4K video too, which is a carryover from the 6S, and it's also what my big cinema camera shoots at, so I thought I'd do a little test. This is my $10,000 ultimate cinema camera rig. This is my new iPhone 7, connected to a wireless broadcast microphone and to a video monitor so I can see what I'm doing. And this is what it looks like. It's pretty damn good. It's even recording audio seamlessly from my microphone, despite not having an audio jack. And that leads me to the elephant in the room. The iPhone 7 does not have a headphone jack, which has enraged a lot of people. I've always struggled to understand people who listen to music on a phone, especially when exercising or on public transport. Those are perfect times to be alone with your thoughts and to come to terms with that gaping emptiness inside you that reminds you that you're just a speck of dust on a slightly bigger speck of dust that's hurtling through the universe at thousands of miles an hour, and that all life is meaningless and you're going to die alone. But hey, I guess some people like to drown that out with music, and most people will do that with headphones. So how do you do that when you don't have a headphone jack? Well, most people won't really be that affected, since most people just use the headphones that come with their phone. And the iPhone 7 includes a set of decent sounding earpods that plug in using the charging port. An adapter in the box will allow you to use your existing headphones, and while adapters aren't ideal solutions, it is a pretty discreet one, so you won't notice it too much unless you're constantly changing devices. Using the lightning port that you use to charge your phone as a headphone port as well actually has a lot of advantages. One is that you can charge your headphones directly from it. I use noise cancelling headphones that have to be recharged every couple of days, but if they use the lightning port instead of a 3.5mm jack, they would be able to draw enough power to not need batteries at all. Another advantage is of course that it's another way to stop water from getting into the phone, ensuring that it is properly water resistant. And third and final is that this puts sound quality into the hands of headphone manufacturers, even more so than before. Usually with a phone or computer, or any other device for that matter, the device itself takes a digital sound and converts it to an analog signal that it sends up the headphone wire to the headphones themselves, which play the sound. This means that your headphones can sound slightly different between devices, and some high-end headphones have so much impedance that a phone is not capable of powering them. Now the paradigm has shifted slightly. The phone now outputs digital information to the headphones, and it is up to the headphones to convert that information into an analog sound signature. This might seem like a small difference, but it opens up a plethora of opportunities for headphone companies to be completely in control of what their products sound like and to create some really cool products, and this should allow for advancements in audio quality. Though since Apple only includes one lightning port on the iPhone 7, it means you can't charge your phone while listening to headphones, and if you are someone who does that a lot, you're going to need to use wireless headphones, of which there are very few good ones. And they introduce a slew of problems of their own. So is it innovative to remove the headphone jack, or is it just a step backwards? The answer is both. It might not be innovative in and of itself to remove such a staple, but it will drive innovation in an industry that's been pretty stagnant for a while. Almost certainly in the next couple of years, we'll see huge advancements in wireless audio technology, headphones with better wireless signal strength, and maybe new wireless standards that address all of the shortcomings of current wireless headphones. And this is a good thing. Sometimes you do have to take a few steps back before moving forward again, and if you can't live without a headphone jack today, then don't buy this phone. I think in this case, the change is here to stay. Apple have an almost flawless track record of removing standards that then go on to become obsolete. When they removed the floppy drive from the iMac in the 90s, people said they were crazy and that no one would want to use USB. When they removed the disk drive from their laptops in the 2000s, people said they were crazy. And when they released the original iPhone without a physical keyboard in 2007, people said they were crazy and that no one would want to use a phone with a touchscreen keyboard. Heck, go further back to the 70s and 80s. People said Apple were crazy for getting rid of the command line interface and that no one would want to use a mouse for computing. There is, however, one big reason you shouldn't buy this phone, and that's next year will be the 10th anniversary of the iPhone, and Apple will need that release to be incredibly successful. So that's why the iPhone 7 is here. It's a market experiment. It's designed to take the flak for removing the headphone jack, so that next year when the anniversary edition arrives, there's no controversy and there are loads of great lightning and wireless headphones available. Or, if the iPhone 7 fails spectacularly, which I don't think it will, then they can put their headphone jack back on next year and it will all go back to normal. The iPhone 7 is just the catalyst for change, because apart from the missing headphone jack and a few new features, the iPhone 7 is not really much different from the iPhone 6s, which is probably the iPhone you should be buying right now and is an excellent phone in its own right. But if you want the latest and greatest, there's nothing too wrong with the iPhone 7. It looks great, feels great, and is for the most part very enjoyable to use as a daily driver, as well as being water resistant. And it's generally tougher than older models, and it has the best haptic home button I've ever used. Thanks for watching Tech Dredge. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on the iPhone 7. Like the video if you liked it and dislike it if you thought it was horrible. I'll see you next time.